Ray had never imagined that accepting an invitation to an alien wedding would change the direction of his life so completely. He worked as a simple orbital engineer on a human station that floated along the outer rim of a peaceful Alliance route. His days were steady and predictable. He inspected hull plates. He tightened connectors. He checked supply logs. That rhythm kept him calm, and he liked it that way. Yet when the envoy from the distant world of Leorin arrived with invitations to a diplomatic celebration, his supervisor tapped him on the shoulder and said he was being sent as one of the human representatives. Ray was surprised, but accepted the role without hesitation because he believed it would be a good opportunity to see something new. The Lyrans were known for grand celebrations. Their architecture resembled sweeping arcs of crystal that glowed under warm starlight. Their voices carried musical tones that hovered lightly in the air. Their culture valued ceremony, hospitality, and elaborate symbolism. Ray had read about them in brief reports, but nothing prepared him for walking off the shuttle and seeing their capital city in person. Towers rose like gentle waves. Walkways shimmered as if embedded with living light. The people moved with a graceful rhythm that made the entire place feel like a living festival. Ray was escorted by a set of Leorin attendants wearing ceremonial cloaks of deep violet. They led him toward a broad plaza shaped like a radiant circle. At its center stood the royal hall, carved from a single clear stone that refracted the sun into a cascade of colors. Ray tried not to stare in awe, but every step made him feel like he was walking through a dream. He repeated to himself that he was only a guest, a quiet observer who would congratulate the royal family and then return home. Inside the hall, rows of luminescent banners hung from the high ceiling. Musicians played gentle harmonies that seemed to move around him rather than through the air. Nobles and envoys from dozens of species filled the gathering space. Ray kept to the side, not wanting to intrude. Yet even from that distance he could see the king, a tall figure with a shimmering mantle that shifted with every breath. Beside the king stood the royal offspring named Ari, who carried the calm confidence of someone raised in the center of tradition. Ari's eyes were bright, clear, and reflective, almost mirroring the world around them. Ray expected nothing more than polite greetings, perhaps a brief exchange of customs. What he did not expect was for Ari to notice him immediately. The royal heir stepped down from the raised platform and approached him with a warm expression that carried a mixture of curiosity and genuine welcome. Ari spoke in a soft, melodic voice that sounded like the first notes of a gentle song. Ari thanked him for attending and asked what had brought him so far from Earth. Ray answered with humility, saying that he was simply chosen by chance, but honored to witness the celebration. Ari seemed pleasantly surprised by his earnestness and invited him to sit near the front to observe the ceremony more clearly. Ray hesitated because he did not want to assume such a place of honor. Ari reassured him and guided him forward. When he sat among ambassadors and dignitaries, he felt a wave of nervous energy ripple through him. Yet Ari seemed comfortable and continued to speak with him quietly between ceremonial phases. Ray learned that Ari admired humans for their resilience and adaptability. Ari had studied human history and believed that humans carried a kind of determined warmth that other species rarely possessed. Ray did not know what to say to such thoughtful praise, so he simply listened and tried to respond with sincerity. The wedding ceremony began with a procession of family members who carried symbolic roles related to unity, heritage, and renewal. The musicians shifted to a slow rhythm that echoed like distant water. Ray watched with admiration as the couple exchanged glowing bands that bonded through heatless light. The king spoke blessings that resonated across the hall like a rich chord. Every moment felt like a timeless sequence carved into tradition. Then something unexpected happened. A portion of the ceremony required guests from various worlds to offer a gesture of goodwill. Each gesture represented peace and interconnection. Ari turned to Ray and asked if he would represent humanity for this part. Ray was startled because several high-ranking human officials were present, yet Ari chose him. Unsure but respectful, he agreed. Ari guided him to the center, where a crystalline vessel sat on a pedestal. Each participant was meant to touch the vessel and let it display a reflection of their intent. Ray placed his hand gently on the surface. The crystal glowed with a soft golden hue that spread outward in a smooth wave. Murmurs filled the hall. Ari's eyes widened with interest and warmth that the golden light meant harmony and sincerity in Leoran tradition. It was a rare color that few could produce. The king regarded Ray with thoughtful approval. Ari seemed deeply moved. Ray stepped back, confused but honored. The ceremony continued smoothly, but Ray could feel subtle glances directed toward him. After the formal rituals ended, the hall was transformed into a grand banquet space. Tables held vibrant fruits and gentle steaming dishes. The air was filled with cheerful conversation. Ari stayed near Ray almost the entire time. They asked him questions about earth food, human art, and the quiet routines of his engineering work. Ray answered honestly, feeling a growing sense of ease. Ari appeared captivated by the way he described ordinary things. Ray felt they were getting along far better than he expected. As the evening progressed, the king approached them. The king said that the golden light from the crystal vessel signified an extremely rare connection in Leoran culture. It suggested compatibility and mutual resonance. The king explained that such a color had traditionally been associated with forming alliances not just between species, but between families. Ray felt a surge of confusion. He thought he had simply followed instructions. He had no idea that the gesture held such deep meaning. Ari looked at him with a calm yet hopeful expression. Ari explained that the color indicated a profound bond. Unions had been formed for far less symbolic strength. Ray tried to express his astonishment. He respected their culture, but had not expected to become part of it. The king then delivered a statement that made the entire hall pause. The king announced that Ray had displayed a rare compatibility with the royal offspring, and that, if both parties agreed, it would be an honor for the kingdom to form a new diplomatic union through marriage. The room fell silent. Ray felt his heart race. Ari lowered their gaze for a moment, then looked back at him with gentle clarity. Ari did not pressure him. Instead, Ari asked him if he felt any sense of connection or mutual respect. Ray considered the entire day. Ari had shown nothing but kindness. Ari valued his simplicity. Ari treated him as though his presence mattered. Ray realized he did feel something beyond admiration. It was not romantic in the impulsive sense, but rather a deep comfort. A sense that standing beside Ari felt natural and welcome. Ray answered with quiet honesty. He said he respected Ari deeply and would be willing to form a bond if Ari believed it would help unify their cultures, and if Ari truly wanted it. Ari smiled with sincere warmth. The hall erupted in harmonious tones of approval. Preparations for the union took place quickly by Leoran tradition. Marriage among them was not based on haste, but on symbolic momentum. Once a connection was confirmed by the vessel, any delay was believed to disrupt harmony. Ari led Ray through each step. He wore a ceremonial cloak of bright azure. Ari wore one of silver light. Together they approached the sacred platform where two streams of luminescent energy flowed beside each other. A master of ceremonies guided them through the vows that emphasized trust, understanding, and shared purpose. Ray repeated each line with steady sincerity. Ari responded with graceful clarity. When the final words were spoken, the streams of energy rose and intertwined above them, forming a radiant arc that symbolized union. The hall filled with applause. The king stepped forward and welcomed Ray as part of the royal family. Ray bowed his head, overwhelmed by the honor. There was no grand celebration afterward, only a peaceful gathering with soft music and warm conversation. Ari remained close to him, explaining small customs and offering gentle reassurances. Ray felt calmness settle over him. The idea of returning home alone felt distant now. He realized that his life had changed in a way he had never anticipated. As the night ended, Ari guided him toward the balcony overlooking the glowing city. The sky shimmered with distant stars. Ari spoke softly about hopes for a future where humans and Lyrans formed stronger bonds through understanding and respect. Ray answered that he would do his best to represent humanity with honesty. Ari placed a hand lightly on his arm. Ray felt comfort settle into him like a peaceful warmth. They both looked out at the horizon, where dawn began to break. Ray had arrived as a simple guest. He had expected nothing but a brief visit. Yet he now stood as part of a new family, connected to a world that embraced him with open sincerity. He did not feel trapped or uncertain. Instead, he felt like he had stepped into a path he was meant to follow. The city glowed. Ari smiled. A new chapter began.